fiscal year 2021 budget public hearing. We are holding this meeting virtually in light of the current medical emergency. For the record, I would like to confirm that I can see and hear all of you, so we will do a roll call. Please say your name when you answer here. Vice Chair Pat Gerard.
Gerard here.
Secretary Treasurer Gina Driscoll.
Driscoll here.
David Albritton.
Albritton here.
Richard Bennett.
Richard Bennett here.
Vince Cox.
Vince Cox here.
Heather Gracie. She's absent?
Absent.
Okay. All right. Charlie Justice.
Justice here.
Janet Long.
Looks to be absent.
Okay. Darden Rice.
Absent. Delayed.
Okay. And Keith Sabile, I saw you.
Yes, sir. I'm here. Present.
And Dan Saraki.
Dan Saraki here.
Great, thank you. Josh Schulman.
Josh Schulman here.
Ken Welch.
Ken Welch here.
Jamie Robinson.
Jamie Robinson here.
And myself, Chair Joe Barkley, I'm here as well. Okay, very good. So the first thing we will do tonight is to have our required final public hearing on our fiscal year 2021 millage rate and budget. First up will be Brad and me reading the required public statements. So I will go ahead and read the first portion of this, the public hearing for the fiscal year 2021 millage rate and budget. The purpose of this public meeting is to receive public input and allow the public to ask questions concerning the authority's proposed millage rate and proposed operating and capital budget for the fiscal year 2021. Tonight, we will consider the final millage rate and the final 2021 budget. Copies of our proposed and tentative budgets are available if you have not already obtained one. The adopted tentative fiscal year 2021 budget totals $161,869,058 with an operating budget of $87,759,968 and a capital budget of $74,109,090. The millage rate for fiscal year 2021 will be proposed as unchanged at 0.7500. The fiscal year 2021 rollback rate is 0.7032. The fiscal year 2021 proposed millage rate of 0.7500 is 6.66% greater than the rolled back rate. PSTA's millage rate is limited at 0.7500. The proposed property tax rate is used to fund the fiscal year 2021 budget. Brad, you're up.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Oh, I see Commissioner Long has joined us. Good evening.
I'm here.
Okay. This public hearing has been scheduled so the general public may be given the opportunity to comment on the proposed millage rate and budget for fiscal year 2021. A paid advertisement concerning the public hearing appeared in the Tampa Bay Times on September 2nd. Notices were posted at Park Street Terminal, Grand Central Station, Williams Park, Pinellas Park Transit Center, PSTA Administrative Headquarters, and on all PSTA buses and our website on September 2nd. An announcement was posted on social media also on that date, September 2nd. To date, staff has received no written comments from the public concerning the issue.
Thank you, Brad. Okay, so our treasurer, Debbie Leas, will go ahead and give us a presentation. Thank you. Debbie, you got your mic on?
You're muted, yeah.
There we go. Thank you
Okay.
very much, Chair Barkley. And I'm Debbie Leas, and Chief Financial Officer. And tonight, as we mentioned, is the second of two public hearings on the proposed fiscal 21 budget. Next slide. Since the last public hearing, the proposed budget has been amended for additional revenue and additional pension expense, resulting in a net change of $147,000, as you can see on the chart here. And if you could go to the next slide. Thank you. What I am pleased to say is that the fiscal 21 budget is not only balanced, but we actually have a surplus of approximately $2 million. And PSTA is very grateful for the CARES Act at this unprecedented time, which is why both the capital and operating budgets have elements of resiliency and sustainability that we'll talk about tonight. However, I would be remiss if I didn't update you on fiscal 20. In March of this year, we went into the pandemic in a very healthy financial position with a positive variance to budget. There has been controlled spending and savings in all areas. Next slide. As you can see from this chart on the bottom, our forecast for fiscal 20 is $79 million, almost the same as last year. And I am predicting the forecast will even be lower than that at this point. And it's well below our budget of $85.3 million. We anticipated to come in under budget, but certainly not by this much. There are four major areas of savings that we've had: in overtime, our paratransit costs, fuel, and repair parts. The budget for fiscal 21 in the last column of $88.4 million reflects a very conservative budgeting for a return to normal. Next slide. Next slide, Julie. Thanks. The operating budget does, though, have a couple major initiatives in them. Our new Mobility on Demand program with the implementation of a whole new eligibility process. And at the same time, we are currently working on issuing a new RFP for paratransit services. These actions will not only better serve our customers, but I believe will also have a positive impact on our bottom line. In the budget, there is an emphasis on technology. We are actually dedicating one of our bus supervisors to just that, as well as technology enhancements for resiliency, redundancy, and recovery. Next slide. Fiscal 21 has very strong revenues with an increase in property tax values and hence revenues. The property appraiser's office, though, is predicting a decrease for fiscal 22 with potentially modest increases in the years going out. No doubt there is a significant amount of uncertainty at this early stage. But PSTA also forced a reduction in our passenger fares this year by going fare-free due to COVID-19. And the fiscal 21 budget assumes a return to fares along with the implementation of our Flamingo Fare project. So now on to some other capital highlights. Next slide. The fiscal 21 improvement program, of course, includes our Sunrunner BRT and related transit-oriented development studies. PSTA has been the award recipient of 2 discretionary grant awards for this transit-oriented development. We also have innovative technology, as we've talked about, and the design of the Clearwater Intermodal Terminal. Next slide. The capital budget also includes receipt of 20 trolleys and 4 electric buses. And PSA, again, was just awarded a grant for 2 more electric buses. So I'm proud to say that we are leading the state in the electric bus procurement. Electric buses also means electric bus infrastructure. And we're going to need to be looking at how to prepare for the future. And as we look to prepare for the future with the infrastructure, we need to reduce dependency on the grid. Next slide. Currently, PSTA participates in the Duke Solar Panel Project, and our capital and budget includes design money for solar panels on our campus. We are exploring the concepts of putting solar panels across our bus yard, as well as on our roofs and along the sidewalk going from the lay-by to the administration building. You're going to be hearing a lot more about this in the coming months. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Debbie. And let me just ask if there are any questions from the board, please raise your hand and I will recognize you. Okay, seeing no questions, thank you very much. Now
Chair
is the
Barclay,
time-
Chair Barclay, I believe Commissioner Rice has joined us and she raised her hand.
Okay, Commissioner Rice, please go ahead. Thank you. For some reason, I don't see you on my screen.
I don't see her either. Okay, go ahead, I guess. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, I
Okay.
didn't have a question. I was just trying to hop on. Thank you.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you. Now is the time for public comment on the millage rate. You can call into the meeting and provide comment at the number shown on the screen, which is 1-408-418-9388. The meeting ID is 173-209-4756. Individuals will be able to speak for 3 minutes during the public comment period. Again, to make a public comment today during the meeting, members of the public should call 1-408-418-9388, and the meeting ID is 173-209-4756. You can also submit public comments by email at publiccomments@psta.net. Julie, are there any public comments either on the line, or did you receive any written comments?
There are no public comments on the line, and Clarissa will confirm for us if there are any written comments to date.
Okay, thank you.
We have not received any written public comments.
Okay, thank you, Clarissa. Okay, so now, for the record, I must make this announcement again. For the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority, the fiscal year 2021 proposed millage rate is 0.7500. The fiscal year 2021 rolled back rate is 0.7032. The fiscal year 2021 proposed millage rate of 0.7500 is 6.66% greater than the rolled back rate. PSTA's millage limit is 0.7500. At this time, I would like to ask our attorney, Ms. Nikki Day, to read the resolution.
Thank you, Chair. Resolution number 2008, a resolution of the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority fixing the millage rate to be levied for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020 and ending September 30th, 2021, and providing for an effective date. And members of the Board of Directors, this is reading of Resolution 2008 by title only.
Okay, thank you. Now, do I have a motion to approve the final millage resolution?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Gerard,
Commissioner-
second.
Okay, Commissioner Dan Saraki makes the motion. Who seconded?
Gerard.
Pat Gerard. Thank you very much, Vice Chair Gerard. Okay. Now, would you all please make sure your microphones are on for the vote, and please state your name when you vote. Vice Chair Pat Gerard.
Gerard, yes.
Secretary Treasurer Gina Driscoll.
Driscoll, yes.
Commissioner David Albritton.
Albritton, yes.
Commissioner Richard Bennett.
Richard Bennett, yes.
Commissioner Vince Cox.
Vince Cox, yes.
Commissioner Jamie Robinson.
Robinson, yes.
Commissioner Heather Gracie. Not here, correct? Okay. Commissioner Charlie Justice.
Justice, yes.
Commissioner Janet Long.
Long, yes.
Commissioner Darden Rice.
Rice, yes.
Commissioner Keith Sabile,
Sabile, yes.
Commissioner Dan Saraki,
Dan Saraki, yes.
Commissioner Josh Schulman,
Josh Schulman, yes.
Commissioner Ken Welch,
Welch, yes.
and myself, Chair Joe Barkley, votes yes. Unanimous acceptance of that motion. Now is the time for public comment on the fiscal year 2021 budget. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, again, the telephone number is on the screen. It is 408-418-9388, and the meeting ID is 173-209-4756. Julie, is there any public comment on the line regarding the budget that I would like to comment?
There is no public comment on the line for budget. Clarissa, can you confirm whether we've received written?
We have not received any written public comments.
All right, thank you very much. So at this time, I'm going to ask Attorney Nikki Day to please read the resolution regarding the budget.
Thank you, Chair Barkley. Resolution number 2009, a resolution of the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority adopting the final budget for fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020 and ending September 30th, 2021, for carrying on the duties and obligations of the authority and providing for an effective date. And members of the Board of Directors, this has been reading of Resolution 2009 by title only.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve the final budget resolution and the final fiscal year 21 budget as presented this evening?
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Long. I would like to move the final approval of our budget for the fiscal year 2021.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do I have a second?
Gerard,
Mr. Chair, Richard Bennett will second the motion.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bennett. Okay, here we go. Make sure your microphones are on for the vote, and please state your name when you vote. Okay. Vice Chair Pat Gerard.
Gerard, yes.
Secretary Treasurer Gina Driscoll.
Driscoll, yes.
Commissioner David Albritton.
Albritton, yes.
Commissioner Richard Bennett.
Richard Bennett, yes.
Commissioner Vince Cox.
Vince Cox, yes.
Commissioner Jamie Robinson.
Sorry, Robinson, yes.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Charlie Justice.
Justice, yes.
Commissioner Janet Long.
Long, yes.
Commissioner Darden Rice.
Rice, yes.
Commissioner Keith Sabile.
Sabile, yes.
Commissioner Dan Saraki.
Dan Saraki, yes.
Commissioner Josh Schulman.
Josh Schulman, yes.
Commissioner Ken Welch.
Welch, yes.
And myself, Chair Joe Barkley, votes yes. Thank you for that. That's a unanimous vote. This will conclude the public hearing. Now we will begin the regular board meeting with public agenda on any of the consent items or on any other topic not on today's agenda. Okay, once again, we have public comment on the screen is the phone number for the public to call, which is 1-408-418-9388. The meeting ID is 173-209-4756. If you want to make a comment, I'll pause for a few seconds. Okay, Julie, are there any citizens on the line that have submitted written comments or wish to speak at this time?
No, Chair Barkley, there is nobody on the line waiting to speak at this time. Clarissa, can you confirm that we have not received any emails?
We have not received any written public comments.
That concludes.
Okay. So at this time, I'm going to ask that Commissioners Darden Rice and Janet Long give us an update on the recent Forward Pinellas and T-BARTA board meetings. So Commissioner Rice, would you go ahead, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The Forward Pinellas Board met virtually on September 9th.
the Forward Pinellas Board unanimously approved staff recommendations for construction of the US 19 North Planned Pedestrian Thruway and affirmed the quarter-mile to half-mile spacing policy of pedestrian crossings with reconstruction of US 19 North to Pasco County. Related to that, PSTA board heard at our last meeting that FDOT is designing US 19 from State Road 580 to County Road 95 as a partially controlled access expressway, replacing traffic signals at Republic Drive and Curlew Road with an overpass and an interchange. The design includes 3 pedestrian and bike crossings, which are underpasses and overpasses, which will be about every half mile to fulfill a request for connectivity to Forward Pinellas in 2018. PSTA, we previously supported this design to improve pedestrian safety conditions that will impact many of our bus riders. On the T-BARTA Regional Rapid Transit Project, Commissioner Long will probably have more to comment on this, but briefly, the T-BARTA Regional Rapid Transit Project is evaluating several design alternatives concerning the extent of dedicated lanes in the I-275 corridor and the associated ridership and cost implications of each. The next step is to go into further detail on the impacts of the alternatives, including routing and service options, local transit service connectivity, station locations, and station area design options. Also, Mike Meidel presented the Pinellas County Economic Development Update. With the Penny for Pinellas funding, Pinellas County is able to create over $80 million of projects. At this time, 18 funding applications have been received for the housing component. These projects will help attract quality workers to Pinellas and ensure they can not only work in Pinellas County, but also live here. In December, Pinellas Economic Development will launch the economic development portion of the projects, and they will be open for applications. Lastly, Whit Blanton provided an update on the annual call for projects, and these are transportation alternatives, complete streets, and multimodal priorities. The annual call for projects is open for applications for transportation alternatives, complete streets, multimodal priorities through December, with a staggered series of deadlines for each program. Applications will be presented to the board for approval in March 2021. So if you're from, excuse me, if you're from a home local government that hasn't usually applied for or received, excuse me, money for these projects, please pay attention because there is going to be a better publicized process for doing this, and we want to hear from as many people as possible. The next board meeting will be October 14th, 2020, and that's the Forward Pinellas report.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rice. Commissioner Long, would you update us on the T-BARTA program, please?
Thank you, Chair Barkley. I'm happy to do so, and my report will be quite brief since Commissioner Rice was so eloquently commenting on the activities of T-BARTA. But we did have our meeting, our board meeting last Friday, the 25th of September, and the 2021 board officer elections took place. The governing board unanimously approved retaining Chair Holton as chair, and your commissioner here, Janet Long, was voted as secretary treasurer, and Mitch McLean was voted in as the new vice chair. The second amendment to PSTA and T-BARTA, our interlocal agreement, was unanimously approved by T-BARTA, with PSTA for reciprocal services now from T-BARTA to PSTA. And I don't know, Brad, if you or Debbie want to elaborate on that in a few minutes or not, but it's kind of neat that we've provided services for them for so long. Now they're going to help us when we need them. So part of the presentations that you may be interested in, and I'm thinking, I don't know if on in the future, PSTA might be interested in hearing some of this as well. There was a gentleman, Andrea Lamendola of Hyperloop Transportation Technologies, who updated the board on his company and some of the projects that they're working on. Hyperloop can operate as an elevated infrastructure with a levitated capsule that is electromagnetically propelled. During the presentation, a regional study was proposed for Tampa Bay. Phases 1 and 2 focus on creating tunnel concept infrastructures connecting Tampa to St. Pete and St. Pete to Bradenton. I'm not exactly quite sure how I feel about that, given that Pinellas County is built on an aquifer. Nevertheless, it was Mayor Castor and Mayor Kreisman that were very adamant that this opportunity not be kicked up back to Tallahassee, but rather stay with T-BARTA. The third phase entails a network concept connecting Bradenton to Miami. The board agreed to discuss further consideration of Hyperloop during its October Policy Committee meeting. The next board meeting is scheduled for October 6th, 2020 at 10 a.m. The location to be determined. And that's the end of my report, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for thorough reports, both of you. I appreciate that. Okay, now our next item on the agenda is the consent item. Do I have a motion to approve the consent item? Please state your name. Do I have a second? And then if there are any questions to pull a specific item, we can do so.
Gerard,
Commissioner Bennett will support the motion.
Okay, so I have a motion from Vice Chair Pat Gerard and a second from Commissioner Bennett, was it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right. So if there are no objections, I'll go ahead and call the roll for the vote on this. Please make sure your microphone is on and state your name when you vote, please. Okay. Vice Chair Pat Gerard.
Gerard, yes.
Secretary Treasurer Gina Driscoll.
Driscoll, yes.
Commissioner David Albritton.
Albritton, yes.
Commissioner Richard Bennett.
Richard Bennett, yes.
Commissioner Vince Cox.
Vince Cox, yes.
Commissioner Jamie Robinson.
Robinson, yes.
Commissioner Heather Gracie. Not here. Okay. Commissioner Charlie Justice.
Justice, yes.
Commissioner Janet Long.
Long, yes.
Commissioner Darden Rice.
Rice, yes.
Commissioner Keith Sabile.
Zabeel, yes.
Commissioner Dan Saraki.
Dan Saraki, yes.
Commissioner Josh Schulman.
Josh Schulman, yes.
Commissioner Ken Welsh.
Welch, yes.
And myself, Chair Joe Barkley, votes yes. Thank you. Unanimous vote for all who were present. Okay. Now we're going to have any staff presentation, so please make sure to turn your mics on mute. Okay. Go ahead, please, with the presentation. This is on the action item to approve the contract with American Janitorial.
Good evening.
This is our only action item, and it was unanimously recommended for approval by the PSTA Finance Committee meeting. This includes trash pickup services and bus shelter maintenance and cleaning. Henry Lukasik and Al Burns will take us through this presentation. So go ahead, please, Henry.
All right, good evening. Henry Lukasik again, Director of Maintenance. So before I turn it over to Al Burns on an official presentation of the action, I'd like to go ahead and present an abridged version of what I showed to the Finance Committee on an overview of our shelter and bus stop maintenance operations. Next slide, please. So on this slide, as many of you know, PSTA has many bus stops out there, approximately almost 4,400. We have shelters, we have benches, we have passenger centers, hubs, and parking ride lots. Now, shelter and stop maintenance upkeep falls under the guise of the watchful eye of our facilities maintenance division, a part of the maintenance department. And they're essentially overseeing installation, ongoing rehabilitation, but trash removal and landscaping and cleaning, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Next slide, please. So shelter cleaning and stop maintenance has always been subcontracted over the years. As you can see, we've got some numbers in front of you. It's an annual budget of about $600,000, well over 73,000 staff hours. And we're pretty much 24/7 at this point. Now, over the last 5 years, these numbers have actually doubled from what they were prior. More of an annual budget, greater presence out in the system. Next slide, please. So if you ever wanted to see what 4,300 bus stops looks like in Pinellas County,
Whoa.
This is what it looks like. As you know, all of our bus stops have a 4-digit unique identifier number. And when you lay them all out in Pinellas County along our routes, you see that there are a lot of them. And we cover pretty much every square inch of Pinellas County. And as you can see, some of these actually go across into Hillsborough, where we share stops with our colleagues, Hart.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Long. Could I interrupt here for just one
please,
moment?
go ahead.
Henry, is it possible that you could share that with me in such a way that I can share it with my colleagues on the county commission when we have our workshop tomorrow? I know that we're not necessarily talking about transportation at the workshop, but I do think it's an unbelievable visual that I dare say not too many folks are aware of the coverage that PSTA is able to provide. And I think it would be meaningful for everyone, even though I have a couple of my colleagues sitting here right now. I find it just unbelievable visual, and really and truly have no idea because we focus so much on our primary routes, you know?
Absolutely. Will a PDF format be acceptable?
Yeah, that would be great. If you could just email it to me, I'll be happy to share it with my colleagues. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Okay, well, let's go to a less exciting slide, and that will be the next one. So what goes into shelter and maintenance? And I'll go through a couple of these rather quickly. So we have bus stop cleaning. We've got 6 crews out there. And as I mentioned before, we're pretty much out there 7 days a week. And as you can see on some of these next slides, the presence out there, well over 42,000 hours a year, we're out there on the streets. Next slide, please. So what are they doing out there? Well, the big thing that we do is emptying trash, power washing shelters. I want to share this graphic with you. PSTA has and continues to pick up incrementally larger amounts of trash on a yearly basis. As you can see from some of these numbers and bar charts, 260 tons of trash just this year alone, and that's October through August of this fiscal year, has been picked up. We do believe that will probably hit 600,000 by the time everything closes this year. We do have a companion program, which if you haven't been on our buses, you may not know about, but if you have, you notice that each bus has a small 3-gallon trash receptacle, and this is for convenience where folks can get on and put their trash in there. That actually generates 110 tons of trash a year that we also dispose of. So on a yearly basis, between the buses and what we pick up out in the system, we're at 375 tons per year. Now, over the last 5 years, PSTA has picked up 1,875 tons of trash. And if we were to make that pounds, that'd be 3.75 million pounds of trash that we have picked up in the last 5 years. And we're still going. Next slide, please. So some of the other things, shelter and terminal cleaning, these are the folks that go in there just about 6 days a week. They're power washing our manned terminals such as Grand Central and Pinellas Park and Park Street. And they generally, a lot of times I get questions as to, I don't really see them. When are they out there? Well, they're out there after hours when the traffic is light, so as not to impede traffic flow. Next slide, please. And of course, at our manned passenger terminals, that do have public restrooms. We do have restroom cleaning. Due to the pandemic, we have increased that coverage of that service so that those bathrooms are cleaned about every 10 minutes. All high points are touched. And they're not only cleaning the public restrooms, but they're also hitting the operator break rooms and operator bathrooms as well. Next slide. We have something called the daytime floater. So after the night crew goes home, we do have a crew out there during the day. And the point of this crew is to really handle any hotbed issues up. So anytime we get an email saying that there's a trash can overflowing or something needs to be cleaned up, we do have a crew out there and they do respond very quickly that day. Next slide, please. So how is all this managed? Well, we got a lot of technology in the background. PSTA has a centralized report tracking system. We call it Property Track. This is where all the work orders and the requests and the emails and the phone calls and the see-click fixes come in, and we tabulate all this. This is an automated system. You send us a request, you will get a response back. This is also fed directly to our subcontractors, and you'll hear later that that will be American Janitorial. Next slide, please. And they have their own package of software that they use. Mapping tools, safety and vehicle inspection type reporting. But one of the things that they do is that with their routes, going back to that graphic I showed early on, they do have equipment on board all of their vehicles where they take all of these work orders, they take their routes, and that gets put into a computer package that really helps them define the most efficient manner to dispatch their crews so that there's not overlap or duplication or backtrack. One of these systems on technology is, as you can see, priority routes and stops and hotspots. So about 2 weeks ago, we had a good conversation with the city of St. Petersburg City Council on some hotspots that were identified that need some extra attention. And Commissioner Rice, I can tell you that we have identified those hotspots. There are a total of 21 stops. So we're going to redeploy some resources to sections along 4th Street, MLK, Central Ave, 1st Ave, and of course 34th Street. So we're gonna hit those 21 stops with frequency. We're gonna monitor that, and if we have to make adjustments to frequency for the long term, that is what we're gonna do. Now, that's not just for the city of St. Petersburg. That goes for all the municipalities. We are gonna work with City of St. Pete Sanitation more closely. We'll schedule some meetings, but this goes for all the municipalities that PSTA has a presence in. We do work with city staff or county staff quite a bit, and when we do get reports that we need to go hit an area a little bit more harder with a presence, that's what we do, and we appreciate the feedback, and please keep it coming. All right, last slide for me before I turn it over. So keeping our system clean is not just trash removal and washing. It does take a large effort. Our facilities maintenance division, a staff of 12, could not accomplish it without the assistance of subcontractors. And You kind of see some call outs at the bottom of the slide. This pretty much sums up everything that goes into keeping our fixed route system clean, our shelters and our stops. At this point, I'll turn it over to Al Burns, Director of Procurement, for an overview on the solicitation and presentation of the action item.
Thank you, Henry. On July 1st of this year, PSTA released their RFP in compliance with PSTA's procurement policy. We posted the solicitation on PSTA's website and Demand Star. On August 4th, we received 2 proposals. On August 13th, the evaluation committee evaluated the 2 proposals and ranked the proposals in the following order. Number 1 was American Janitorial, and number 2 it was BCG Facility Services. On September 2nd, we asked American Janitorial to come in and do a presentation internally to staff. And what we wanted to do is make sure that they were prepared with the recent developments in the county, to make sure that they were prepared to deal with those. The evaluation committee determined that AJI was the most qualified and reasonable to perform these requirements. And after a responsibility check, it was determined that they have the capacity to perform the work and therefore are eligible for award. I want to add that AJI is a small business that is based in Lake County, Florida. Additionally, the vice president from American Janitorial, Mr. Jeff Simmons, attended the finance committee meeting and answered questions from finance committee members. And I want to thank Mr. Simmons for his attendance. The fiscal impact of this action item is funded by operating funds that are budgeted for. The recommendation: approve a 2-year contract with 3 one-year options for shelter maintenance with American Janitorial Incorporated for a total contract amount not to exceed $3 million, and authorize the CEO to exercise the 3 one-year options. Mr. Chair, as you stated previously, this action item was unanimously approved by a highly motivated finance committee, and I will be humbled if a member of the finance committee will make a motion this evening to approve this action item. If there are any questions, I will be glad to answer them, or Henry.
Yeah, does anybody have questions for either Al or Henry? Yes, Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Al, I'm glad to hear finance was highly motivated. That's on slide 9.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Absolutely. On slide 9, I had a question just on the technology. Henry, you mentioned property track is what we use, and you mentioned C-Click Fix feeds into that. I was wondering if you could, and if you don't have it today, later on is fine, but I'm just curious, what percentage of the complaints or work orders come in through C-Click Fix? And what's the total number? What do we get in a typical month or year from C-Click Fix in terms of trash items or cleanliness items complaints?
A good question, Commissioner. I do not have that in front of me, but I can certainly pull that tomorrow and have that to you.
Do you know how long C-Click Fix has been feeding into property track?
So when I say feeding in, I probably should restate it, is that we do receive it from an alternate form, which is either we are linked up with C-Click Fix. We have a staffer that monitors that, and we actually take those and we manually put it into our report tracking system.
Okay.
So when I say feed into, it's not a direct link. I know that we do speak with the programmers of C-Click Fix, and it's definitely something to explore. It would be one less step in the process.
I would assume that the volume justifies it. So if you could just let us know what that volume is, I'd be interested in that as well. Thank you.
Yeah, but also, Commissioner, to your question, PSTA gets C-Click Fix things that are not trash, and that are other issues with bus stops or, transgenders and things like that. So that's why a staff person kind of like figures out where it has to go.
Okay. Thank you, Brett.
Any other questions? Commissioner Driscoll.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I'm glad that it was, pointed out that we had some issues and concerns that we had expressed recently in a St. Petersburg City Council meeting. Many of the bus stops or bus shelters that we have, trash problems with and maintenance issues with are in my district. And so this is of particular importance to me. Also, please keep in mind that, we were talking about finding opportunities and resources to expand the number of bus shelters that we have in St. Petersburg, because we have so many that we have many stops that are heavily used but do not have any type of shelter. And we need to, work as hard as we can to fix that and really offer a comfortable and convenient and dignified ride experience for everyone. In order to do that, though, my colleagues need to see, and I need to see, that the ones that we have are being taken care of properly. So this is extremely important that we get there. I'm glad that we have the ability to report this on SeeClickFix. The problem I have with that is that by the time a resident or a city employee sees that there is a problem with the shelter and they go to that app and call it in, it's really too late. The team has already failed at that point. And we've got to raise the standard to where these shelters never get to the point where somebody feels like they have to file a report or a complaint about it. So I'm glad that there's some attention being paid to this, but I want to know more about how we plan to be more proactive by raising the standards instead of being reactive. Who wants to talk to me about that?
Well, I'll start and then maybe Henry can update it. Yeah, no, your points are very important for all of us. After the city council meeting, I've already had some discussions with the deputy mayor and Evan Morey, and we've got a meeting set up to go into much more detail to what Commissioner Welch was talking about, like the direct link with the technology. One idea we had was that in order, as you well point out, to get on top of it as fast as possible, is to have City of St. Petersburg folks, staff, have direct access to connecting with our contractor. So if they see something, inspectors or other people out and about, that it gets addressed very quickly. And so we're looking at that. As Henry said, we've already identified with them specific places where we're going to increase trash pickup and really try to get on top of this thing as fast as we can. And yeah, it just takes a constant vigilance, basically.
Okay, great. So what I'm hearing is that there is a plan in place to actually get ahead of the game, with the goal being to not have complaints because you've already taken care of things before it becomes a real problem, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And so when would be a good time for us to revisit this? And it might be something that we revisit here and on city council, but I want to do a progress check at some point. So do you think that January would be a good time for that?
Yeah, I think that would be great. Both the city and I think Henry can attest, we're seeing increased amount of just trash or litter out in our community during the pandemic. People are home. They're just, making more trash. There's more trash all around. And so both of us are are kind of focused on what can we do, especially now during the pandemic. So I think January would be a good time to get an update on it. Thanks.
Okay, great. I'll make a note to request that that we touch on that during on our agenda for January. And, it is encouraging to see that PSTA and its contractor and the city of St. Petersburg are looking for ways to work better together to address this problem. So I really appreciate that. And I look forward to hearing what kind of progress we've made in a few months. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from any others? Okay, so at this point, incidentally, I just want to mention as chair of the Finance Committee that we did have a very thorough discussion on this, and we did have a good interaction with the key players at the American Janitorial. So hopefully some of the issues that Commissioner Driscoll was alluding to will happen as a result of this new contract. So at this point, do we have a motion to approve the contract with American Janitorial? Please state your name for the record too, please. And
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the
Okay, thank
shelter
you.
maintenance and cleaning contract.
Okay, and Commissioner Saraki makes the motion. Who is the second?
Vince Cox will second the motion.
Okay, Commissioner Cox will second the motion. Thank you very much. Okay, so now is the time for public comment on this item. If you would like to make a public comment on this action item, the telephone number is on the screen. Again, it is 1-408-418-9388, and the meeting ID is 173-209-4756. Julie, is there any public comment on the line who would like to make comments? And also then I'll ask for written comments.
There are no public comments on the line. We will confirm with Clarissa whether there have been additional written comments. Clarissa?
We have not received any written public comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, please make sure your microphones are on and please state your name when you vote on this item. Vice Chair Pat Gerard.
Gerard, yes.
Secretary Treasurer Gina Driscoll.
Driscoll, yes.
Commissioner David Albritton.
Albritton, yes.
Commissioner Richard Bennett.
Richard Bennett, yes.
Commissioner Vince Cox.
Vince Cox, yes.
Commissioner Jamie Robinson.
Robinson, yes.
Commissioner Charlie Justice.
Justice, yes.
Commissioner Janet Long.
Long, yes.
Commissioner Darden Rice. No longer on the call? Okay. Commissioner Keith Sabile.
Sabile, yes.
Commissioner Dan Saraki.
Dan Saraki, yes.
Commissioner Josh Schulman.
Josh Schulman, yes.
Commissioner Ken Welch.
Welch, yes.
Okay, and myself, Joe Barkley, I vote yes. Unanimously voted for by the people who are present at the meeting. Okay, thank you. Now is the time for reports and correspondence along with future meeting subjects. Brad, would you like to talk about any of the reports and future meeting subjects at this time?
Thank you, Chair Barkley. Yes, I'll be quick. I've got really good news. As many of you know, PSTA, of our own 630 employees, about 530 of those are represented by two different unions. We've got a big union that represents all the bus drivers and mechanics and customer service representatives, and we got a really small union that represents our frontline supervisors, our dispatchers, our radio control folks. And I'm very happy to announce that we just in the last day, we received news that we have a tentative agreement for a contract with the smaller union that they'll be voting on very hopefully soon, and then it will be at your next meeting for approval. And that's really good news. That's again the smaller union with the supervisors. Now it is a 1-year agreement, as we all know, as you all know. We're looking forward to some very questionable economic times in the future. And next year, our bigger contract with the bigger union with the bus drivers is up for renewal. So now both of them will be kind of on the same timeline, and we'll just have to see how the economy goes. It puts us in a really good position that they approved this contract. So very good news. Hats off and thanks to our Chief Operating Officer, James Bradford, who did a great job basically closing the deal. He did a really good job with the union and supervisors. Second, I was going to announce that Julie and her team have been working really hard on a plan to safely have in-person meetings, but the governor just extended that. Thank you, Commissioner Justice, for sending me the notice. About 10 seconds, you beat our lobbyists because Ron Pierce's email came right after yours. So October, we'll have virtual meetings. Our next meeting is the Legislative Committee, which will be next Friday. Friday morning is our Legislative Committee. And my final comment to that, thank you to our chair of our committee, Commissioner Long, for joining me on a call with the State Secretary of Transportation last week, Secretary Tebow. And that was a really good discussion. He's making phone calls to certain, really all the different kinds of modes that are under the Department of Transportation, airports, seaports, and transit systems. And so I was one of the ones that he set up a call with to kind of just update on what the Department of Transportation could do for us during coronavirus. And so we told him about all the things we're doing. Plus, we put in a few plugs for things like I'm sure Commissioner Albritton will like, the Clearwater Transit Center and a few other things too. So he's got our list there. Very similarly, Congressman Christ's transportation key staffer I just finished a Zoom call right before this meeting with her, Virginia Poe, and she's got our list now. So next Friday, we'll review and approve our legislative agenda, but we're just hard at work already putting that together. Thanks to lots of the PSTA staff. I don't know about you, but usually in non-pandemic times, this is like the season for conferences. And we would be going to probably an APSA conference. Upcoming is the Florida Public Transit Association conference. And then every year, my favorite conference is the benchmarking conference. And this week is American Bus Benchmarking Group. I'm sure you're just thrilled with that. I'm going to thrill the Finance Committee I'm inspired to give a presentation like I do annually about all of our metrics and data. And to Debbie and Commissioner Saraki, yes, Buffalo is part of the people we compare ourselves to, and we never can compare to their snow removal stats. They love to show, but we had a good virtual meeting this week. It's not the same as being in Buffalo, or we were supposed to be in Salt Lake City, but we had a good Zoom meeting this week. So that's my report, Chair Barkley. Looking forward to a lot of really good things coming in the next few months.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any comments, questions, etc., from anyone on the board? Okay, then at this time, I want to thank everyone for attending, and this meeting is adjourned. Our next meeting is October 28th at 9 a.m. Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Adios, Braves 8.